Hello, my name is Maria Quintanilla, Virtual Content Specialist for World Languages, working in partnership with the Division of Multilingual Learners. Please remember to always check the Teach Hub folder where you can find all the resources we continue to create. This video will walk you through the cultural comparison from beginning planning stages all the way to writing of the mini essay using the 3 P's of culture: products, practices, and perspectives. For more information on the 3 P's of culture, please see the videos on our World Languages, well, New York City World Languages playlist on YouTube, which is linked below. Also, we have created a corresponding video for students, video number 7, which you can show to students to help them understand cultural comparisons. The student video is also linked in the description. I'd like to start this video by reminding us all of ACFOLD's World Readiness Standards for Learning Languages, the 5 C's. Part of intercultural competency is understanding culture and communities, as well as guiding our students to make comparisons and to make connections. To set students up for success, we want to make sure that we provide them with scaffolds which can guide them in their thinking. But where to start, right? Well, regardless, well, why don't you just take a moment to jot down how you would start this cultural comparison task with your students. And regardless of how you start this task with your students, we always want to make sure that we encourage them to define and reflect on their own community or their own experience. It's important to let students know that a community can be as large as a continent or as small as a family. Then we also want to provide them with sufficient input and authentic resources, as well as guiding questions that will help them guide them as they learn about additional target language communities. And of course, we want to provide them with transition words, their structures, graphic organizers as they plan their cultural comparison. Start with the Venn diagram. You can help students fill out part of the diagram, but ultimately we want our students to draw their own cultural comparisons using the 3 P's: products, practices, and perspectives. This graphic organizer is available in the Libretita de Apuntes, their digital notebook. After they have completed their writing down their ideas using the Venn diagram, now they can write sentences that will help them connect their ideas. In our sample units, the units in our sample lessons, in the unit El Llanto de la Pachamama, lesson 4.3 asks teachers to assign closing activities such as the expresión and the conexión at the end of the lesson. The expresión closing activity requires students to take the time to write their ideas from the Venn diagram into the sentences. And then the conexión activity just presents a sample of a cultural comparison that they can use as they prepare for their own cultural comparison. And now that they have gone over, they have done their Venn diagram, they have written their sentences, now you can introduce them to the peer editing process. You can share this document, which you can find in the teacher's copies, on the teacher's notes in lesson 4.3. You can share the document, making sure that it's only view only. The students can make a copy of the document, and then when they are in saloncitos, breakout rooms, they can talk to each other, read each other's sentences, and use this guide that you see here as a way to help each other get ready for the mini essay. You can find, again, this document, this peer editing document, in the teacher's notes of the lesson 4.3 in El Llanto de la Pachamama. Now, before the students go on, well, they've gone through their peer editing process, but before they go on to write their mini essay, you may want to review everything the students learned in the weeks coming up to this summative assessment. You may want to go over it week by week, and then the students will be ready to start writing their essay, which should have 4 paragraphs. It should have an introduction. It should have the first paragraph talking about one of the communities that they're going to be describing, using, of course, products, practices, and perspectives. And then they should have a third paragraph describing their own community using products, practices, and perspectives. And they should have a conclusion, a closing paragraph, a paragraph where their voice comes through, where their own voice comes through, a call to arms, if you will. In Spanish, we call it un llamado a las armas. I just want to clarify that in our sample lessons, the students may just need to be working with practices and perspectives, but they should always understand the concept of products, practices, and perspectives. But for this summative assessment, maybe you just want them to just focus on 2 of the 3 P's of a culture. No, you may want to make sure that they know all 3, even though your task only requires them to focus on 2 of the cultural P's, for example. Okay, so now they have written their mini essay, they have their 4 paragraphs, and how do they write it, right? How are they going to write this essay for you? Well, you may ask the students to type it on a Google Doc, and that's fine. They can type it up and they can share it with you. Or you may want to ask students to write it down and then scan it using their phone, and that scan becomes a PDF. They can share it with you that way as well. And then after you have collected all their essays, maybe you want to create a Google Doc with all their essays hyperlinked so that all the students have a chance to read each other's essays. Remember, or just keep in mind that if you want to share the essays with all the class, you need to think of making sure that you share only the view form. And also you want to keep in mind whether you want to keep your essays anonymous, like if you want to make sure that their names don't appear, or if you feel that your class is ready to, if they feel comfortable knowing who wrote, people reading their essays, that's also, it's a decision that you may want to take. But when it's time to share, like I said, share their essays, you may do a Google Doc with all the hyperlinks, or you may want to do a slides presentation with all their hyperlinks, or you may also, depending on how comfortable you feel with technology, you may want to create a QR code and then just have students scan it directly from your computer, and they can read their essays on their phones. And this way, they can motivate each other by reading each other's essays. They can motivate each other not only to continue to learn the target language that they're learning, but also to go out and do that action that they were called upon to do on that last paragraph of their classmates' essay, that call to arms, that llamado a las armas. They can motivate to also do that in their lives. That was an overview of how you can walk your students through to a cultural comparison task, from planning stages to writing the mini essay to sharing the essay with their classmates or peers. Thank you so much for everything that you do for our students. I look forward to continue to see you throughout the rest of the school year.